Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. I am Pat from Pat's Path Predictor, and let's go ahead and dive right into this. Alright, so they issued a slight risk for severe weather for tomorrow for parts of western tip of Missouri, parts of southeast Kansas into northeast into central Oklahoma, including Tulsa, just outside of Oklahoma City, and Norman. So yeah, that's what's going on. The marginal risk is all the way from Kansas City down to near Dallas, right here, including Wichita Falls, Fort Sill, those areas. And the generic thunderstorms are pretty spread out from Texas all the way to Ohio. So, yeah, it's an interesting development. I'll have to keep a good eye on it. But there is a slight risk of severe thunderstorms late Wednesday afternoon in the evening across portions of the southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri, northeastern to central Oklahoma. Corrected graph issue. Okay, never mind. Summary: a few supercells are possible late Wednesday afternoon and evening near the east of Interstate 35 corridor between Kansas City and Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. A few strong storms may also impact areas west of the Oregon Cascades, accompanied with at least some risk of severe weather. Synopsis: models indicate little change in the general large-scale pattern impacting much of North America during this period. Short waves within a primary belt of westerlies emitting from the mid-latitude within the primary belt with the mid-latitude Pacific appear to remain progressive, but the regime may take on more of a southwesterly component inland of the Pacific coast through much of the northern Atlantic seaboard as a large and still amplifying trough digs offshore on the Pacific coast. Downstream from this feature, mid-level heights may begin to rise across parts of the western through eastern Gulf Coast states by Wednesday night. However, the most prominent mid-level height rises are forecast to across the lee of the Canadian United States Rockies to the east of the Building Ridge. A lower amplitude trough is forecast to dig within the increasingly confluent regime southeast of the central United States-Canadian border vicinity towards the upper Great Lakes. This will occur fairly close behind a more prominent, though migrating trough migrating across the northeast of the Canadian Maritimes, accompanied with an initially broad, occluded surface cyclone rather. That's basically parts of it. Now let's go ahead and get into the stuff you're all probably wanting to hear. The I-35 corridor from Kansas City to Dallas-Fort Worth. Precipitation associated with convection and embedded thunderstorms driven by evaluated moisture return within a eastward spreading lower to mid-tropospheric warm advection regime may reinforce cool, stable boundary layer conditions across much of the Mississippi Valley in advance of the lead surface cold front. However, on the western periphery of the air mass, beneath the plume of initially capping elevated mixed layer air, models continue to indicate that a corridor of strong prefrontal heating may contribute to a narrow zone of boundary layer destabilization, aided by the surface dew point increases through the lower to mid 60s Fahrenheit. That's the dew point right there. So it's getting kind of moist right there. A mixed layer of CAPE in the order of 1 to 2,000 joules per kilogram appears possible, which that's a rather conducive environment for severe weather to fire up. Just keep that in mind, as long as the cap is not too strong to kind of counter that CAPE. So I just wanted to brief that. In the presence of at least a moderately strong deep layer shear located near southeast of the I-35 corridor by peak late afternoon heating, this may provide support for development of a few supercells. A clustering of storms may eventually evolve near the intersection of a cold front dry line and remnant differential heating zone by Wednesday evening, probably somewhere across northern Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma rather, before tending to shift northeastward as mid-level heights tend to rise across the southern plains by Wednesday night. So this is the day 2 situation we have right here. We could see some supercells fire up. The tornado risk is not what's so worrying right here. Like, the tornado risk is only 2% in parts of Oregon and parts of the Great Plains right here into Oklahoma. The wind and hail threat right here are the threats that are warranting this slight risk rather. There's now 15% risk right here of within 25 miles of a point right here. And same with the hail, no change right there. So yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on this as it progresses. Now let's go ahead and go to the day 4 outlook, because there's some new information. First of all, the location has shifted a bit. Now it includes from parts of this tip of the panhandle of Oklahoma all the way up to South Dakota, including the cities of Liberal, Garden City, Colby, McCook, Valentine, Norfolk, and Sioux Falls. So there's now 15% risk in those areas. I'll have to keep an eye on it as it progresses, because now Omaha and Lincoln are out of this 15%. So yeah, that's what's really much changed. Let's go ahead and go to the discussion. Medium range models continue to indicate a large-scale mid to upper troughing within the mid-latitude westerlies, and perhaps at least a couple of significant embedded shortwave precipitations. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. I'll learn to do that and figure that out in the future. We'll continue to inland of the Pacific coast through much of the central and eastern North America by early next week. It appears increasingly probable that one vigorous lead shortwave trough will accelerate northward out of the southwest on Friday and support a strong surface cyclogenesis from the lee of the front range from the eastern Dakotas by 12Z Saturday. The cyclone may occlude and slowly migrate north of the international border of the southern Manitoba or Ontario boundary vicinity by early Sunday. Okay. Coinciding with and preceding this development, a lower mid-tropospheric high may become increasingly prominent across much of the southeast. It appears that this will include the westward development of initially cool, dry surface ridging toward the northwestern Gulf coast. The various model outputs remain suggestive that this may interfere with the moisture return off the Gulf of Mexico, and moistening within the warm sector of the deepening cyclone may only become seasonably modest. However, lower to mid-tropospheric lapse rates across the Great Plains will initially be quite steep, and this probably will compensate, contributing to a favorable environment for development of severe thunderstorms in the presence of strong shear. Highest severe probabilities late Friday afternoon probably will be focused along the sharpening dry line across the higher plains, and then perhaps near the warm front across the mid-Missouri Valley Friday evening. Increasingly widespread convection Friday night will probably tend to stabilize lapse rates. This, coupled with the uncertain influence of the associated surface outflow, leaves this severe weather potential more uncertain for Saturday, though low-level wind fields along and ahead of the eastward advancing front will be strong along a corridor from eastern Kansas through eastern Minnesota near and shortly after the peak potential daytime heating right there. So so there's still some models that are uncertain about what's going on. I actually looked at the Cape. Let's take a look at the Cape from the GFS right here. This is something similar. The Cape by 21Z, or about 4 p.m. on Friday, this area right here cracked. There's some areas that cracked 3,500 right here. Now, the storms are probably going to be developing right along this line, but if they get this far and the shear's enough, they'll have more than enough Cape, as long as the cap doesn't hold it back. There'll be more than enough Cape right here to continue its development right there. As for the risks, there's still some uncertainty with that, so I'll be keeping an eye on it, but just wanted to emphasize that the GFS has the Cape. This is the only model that goes out this far. The Cape that right here, it cracks 3,500 in some areas, but there's generally 3,000 right here, 2,000 to 3,000 here. So yeah, that's basically what I'm looking at. I'll continue to keep a close eye on it, and that's the situation that we have right here. As you can see, predictability too low, predictability too low, predictability too low. But with that being said, that's really going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps me out and helps me make more videos. It also helps me inform more of the public about the weather events like these, and it helps them prepare some more. At least I hope they do. And with that being said, have a wonderful day. Stay safe.